So tidal forces, we haven't talked about that many environmental essences. This is got to be part of the conversation when we're talking about emotional healing. This is an environmental essence made by a dear colleague of mine who lived in and went across from Homer across the bay to a cabin that her and her husband had on the other side of the bay on a regular basis. We asked her one day, would you please make an essence from the tides? Kachemak Bay, which is part of the Cook Inlet in the Pacific Ocean, has the second highest tides in the world, up to 39 feet, which is about 13 or 14 meters. So it's a lot of water coming in and a lot of water coming back out. The only place that has higher tides than Cook Inlet is Nova Scotia in Canada. So you have a very powerful movement here, which is again very much connected to the moon. And you have these super high tides when the moon cycle is, particularly oriented, and perhaps there's a storm or there's a wind surge that's pushing the waves. You can have some pretty amazing wave energy and water energy happening. Now, the story of tidal forces, which is something I encourage you to read, those of you that have my book, it's in there. Those of you that haven't read it, I will explain how to get into our online repertory, and you can read it when you get in there. But it was a bit of a miracle, and Janice, who made this remedy, went down to a place. Her husband was working on a lodge. He's a carpenter, and so she was over there cooking for him and his crew. And we had said, here's the bowl, and could you please make this on that trip? She said, yeah. So she went down to the shore and looked at the high tide mark, which you can see. This is high tide, that brighter bit of rock. And she knows the tides. She knows how to drive a boat. She's been across Kachemak Bay 150 times or whatever. And she's like, okay, so if I put the bowl here, then she knew where the tidal cycle was at the time. If I put the bowl here, it'll be fine. So it'll be close enough to the water, we'll pick up that energy, and then I'll come down in the morning and check on it. So she came down actually later on that evening before she went to bed, and the bowl was gone. She's like, first thought that came into her mind is all loss is gain. All loss is gain. And then she felt bad because she'd lost our bowl, which cost, 2 pounds at any variety store. So, but all loss is gain. That was a very profound sort of, okay, that's what it's about. So she goes back to the lodge and talks to, the bowl's gone, and they're like, well, yeah, you never know what can happen here with the tides and so on. And she's like, but I thought that was the perfect place. So she goes down the next morning, and as she's walking down to the shore, she sees the bowl out in the ocean, out in the bay, floating towards her. And then it comes down to where she can step into the water a little bit and pick it up. So this bowl had been floating around, mostly full of water, excuse me, for 12 hours with the ducks, because it needed its experience. It needed to go out there. It's like, no, being stuck in this little niche in the rocks doesn't work. I've got to be out there in the water. So she picks it up, and she's just like, wow, that's amazing. I hadn't even spilled the water. So that's a miracle, in my view, in my book. That's a miracle. And it's also nature saying, yeah, we can do that. We can make sure this bowl doesn't tip over in the ocean. That's not that big of a deal. When you really feel into that and just sort of sense into that, of course we can do that. So she then said, okay, great. So the tidal cycle is, the full tidal cycle is like 48 hours long. So she put it a little bit further away in a place where it was going to be safe, and it was in March, and so there was snow, there was sleet, there was rain, there was sun, and got all this different kind of elemental energy going. Just a really, really powerful essence. I've had a couple of those kinds of things. I mean, Janice made this one. I've had a couple of those kinds of things happen to me in Alaska doing this work. Rock Spring is another environmental essence where we had a bit of a miracle happen. I really like it when that happens because it is so amazing. It completely blows any skepticism out of the water, no pun intended. And you're just like, yeah, this stuff works. So the ocean and the power of the tides, it's about give and take. It's about letting go and filling up. You know, if you're suffering a loss, own it, work with it, get help with it, have community, have, you know, whatever you need around you to work with that. On the loss side of the column, know that nothing is being taken away from you against your will, but that in your wisdom, you're asking for circumstances to help you let go of something you don't need. Yeah, and that's a spin, but that's what Tidal Forces helps you do. It's like, you know, I could be a victim here and just continually have the experience of, you know, this person died and that thing happened and this person left and whatever. Or you could switch your perspective and say, okay, on some level, this is part of a bigger picture than I'm understanding at the moment. It'll help me get in touch with that bigger picture. It'll help me let go, because not letting go is prolonging or making the suffering worse. So it's a grieving remedy like River Beauty. But it's for, you know, bring in the heavy hitters, bring in the really powerful elemental energies to help you do that kind of big letting go. And it gives you so much confidence when you've gone through a process that, okay, well, if I can do that, I can do anything. You know, if I can get through that and get over that and integrate that, there's nothing I can't do. And as we'll be talking about a little later with animals, it's part of life. You know, death is part of life. And, you know, and some people say, well, there's really no death. You just go back to the non-physical. You know, the body's gone, but the spirit remains. So tidal force is for people who have difficulty letting go and for people who have difficulty receiving. So both sides will come up working with PTSD, working with emotional trauma, emotional healing. Maybe in the beginning it's letting go. I want to help you let go. But then I also want to help you receive. I want to help you open to receive again, because you got to have that. And that's what makes life worth living, is that, you know, that there's, and the tidal force is saying every time you let go, something better will come to replace it. You know, that's how evolution works. That's why we're still on the planet. I'm letting go of this old thing. Maybe there were circumstances that sort of ripped something away from me, but then I'm following up that with, okay, let's let that go. And then the next cycle comes in, oh, here's something really groovy. Here's something really great. Let go of that relationship, better relationship. Let go of that job, better job. That kind of thing. And again, the whole idea of environmental essences is that you're using the power of nature to help you do something, you know, to support you, to give you so much strength and support that, yeah, you can do it.